Paano kung hanapan tayo? Saan napunta? Hindi daw, kaya mo. Hindi, ang babayaran ko nito yung kay Tote kasi yun ang naibalik ko. Bali, 3K ang kay Tutoy lang dito eh. Mali yung dito sa ano. Inyo yung 2-3 na may nilad. Saan na yung papel? Yung papel
Nasa baba.
Tapos yung akin, ang akin 4-7 na din ako eh. Ako eh.
జెండు బామ్ రాస్తే ఎట్లమ్మా మంట కాదా ఏమన్నా వాసింది అది జెండు బామ్ ఎందుకు రాస్తానికి యాడ హలో హలో
Yes. Please share the screen of your page.
Yes, doctor.
And wait, I'll allow screen share first. Okay, you can start screen sharing now so we could start. I invited and your first year under counterparts so that they would know what to do when it's their turn. So please set an example. I know you will do good. Okay. Let's just wait for the others. We're at 200 already. Group 1 ready?
Yes, Doc.
Let's start? So good afternoon. So this is our first presentation.
Welcome. Adina Lang here, and we're going to stretch. We got to get it done, right? So let's just start.
Okay. So, okay, you may start group 1.
Good evening, now. This is Arashruti Mrinali from Group 1 presenting our research draft. Our topic is oral and maxillofacial cancer prevalence in age group of 25 to 70 years in North India. I'm going to start with the introduction. Slide, please. Oral and maxillofacial cancer prevalence in age group of 25 to 70 years in North India. Tobacco use and alcohol consumption are major risk factors for oral cancers. It's a concerning issue in youth as they are highly addicted to these, which can lead to serious medical conditions like oral, throat, and maxillofacial cancers. This is a type of cancer that forms ulcers or lumps-like structures in the tissues of mouth and oral cavity. This also affects face, neck, and mouth areas. Oral and maxillofacial cancers are serious malignant diseases which become fatal if left untreated. Risk factors. There are multiple risk factors for oral and maxillofacial cancers, which include smoking tobacco, marijuana, chewing tobacco, or betel nuts, and also frequent alcohol use. Other cofactors like long-term exposure of lips and skin to sun or UV rays, unhygienic oral sex practices, chronic infections, dental irritation, and exposure of human papilloma virus can cause this cancer. Now the literature from the draft will continued by Amisha and Kushbu.
हेलो भाई ऐसे कहता हूँ अगर मेरा नाम आए ना तो मैं वो कॉल कर देना
Oral cancer is one of the most common cancer, but it's
तो
usually
तू जिस पे
detected
कर
in
रहा है ना
advanced
जिससे बात
stages
करना है
because it's mostly asymptomatic. In 2015, Dr. Vikas,
तो तेरे अलग अलग नंबर नहीं है तू दो फोन रखता है
in 2015, Dr.
दो फोन
Vikas,
रखता है
Dandril, mute your mic.
many studies were performed to identify the risk factors of oral and maxillofacial cancer, such as in 2015, Dr. Vikas did a research on oral cancer knowledge, attitude, and practices in Shimla. A cross-sectional questionnaire study was conducted. The mean knowledge of the population was good, but was higher in female medical students. The research was performed to assess the knowledge of the people about the risk factors which lead to the oral cancer. In 2016, a comparative study was done on oral health knowledge, attitude, and practices among dental and medical students in Odisha. Questionnaire was given to collect the data. Man-Whitney U test was done to compare the knowledge in both the groups. T-test was done to compare their mean knowledge percentage. Score was higher in dental students. In 2018, a survey on oral cancer awareness knowledge among nurses, paramedical staff, and undergraduate medical students was conducted in Haryana. A study was performed to measure awareness of risk factors and clinical signs of oral cancer in all the groups. Study was conducted for 3 months and questionnaire was given to collect the data. The knowledge of the population was good. Another article written on oral cancer etiology and diagnostic aids was written by Dr. Tarun Vyas in 2019. Oral cancer is ranked 6th most common cancer in the world. It's more common in males. Tobacco and alcohol are the two main risk factors for the oral cancer. Photodiagnosis, biopsy, proliferation index helps in detection of the cancer. The detection of oral diseases and their management is complex. Now, Amisha will continue.
In 2016, an overview was written on various etiological agents and risk factors that led to the development of oral cancer. The factors like betel chewing, tobacco, smoking, and alcohol consumption were identified as major concerns. Then in 2019, a general review of oral and maxillofacial pathology exposed the fundamentals of microbiomes, which helped in detecting oral cancer early and more accurately. Improving early detection and accurate diagnosis have been the major challenges around the world. In 2014, a research on oral cancer screening was performed to check what we already know and what we can do about the oral cancer. Wrong practices and knowledge were identified because of this research. In the year 2020, an article was written about the evaluation on oral cancer diagnosis and perspectives in India. It described the various risk factors related to occurrence of oral cancer and statistics of distribution. Now, methodology will be continued by Manan.
Good evening, everyone. So in methodology, I'm going to be explaining to you how we executed our research. So the design of the research is descriptive quantitative. In this method, in which researchers attempts to collect qualifiable information for statistical analysis of the population. Basically, what we mean were we were going after the what's behind the answer and not why, like they were mentioning it. The three basic tools which we use for this for the data was like mean, mode, and median. And next are the basic definitions. Like for the cancer, a disease in which abnormal cells divide uncontrollably and destroy body's tissues. Oral cancer, also known as oral cavity cancer, that develops in any part of the mouth caused by the use of any kind of tobacco, heavy alcohol consumption, human papillomavirus infection, and unhygienic oral sex practices. And next is the maxillofacial cancer. The cancer in the maxillofacial region, which includes the face, jaw, is one of the 10 most common cancers that occurs in the human body. It causes lumps like structure in the face, neck, and in the mouth areas. Next slide, please. So data collection. A research questionnaire was conducted for Indian nationals of age 25 to 70 years. The questionnaire consists of questions regarding smoking tobacco or weed, consumption of alcohol, unhygienic oral sex practices, and so on, by phrasing them using pack years questions. And the same questionnaire was given to the patient who are diagnosed with oral or maxillofacial cancer to know the cause and the risk factors. And next is the budget. The budget for a research study was 6,000 rupees, in which the professional charges for statistician hired by the group, and also the cost for required equipments, travel expense, charge for printing, publication of a research, all are included. Thank you.
Okay. I'd like to acknowledge the presence of Dr. Lopez, okay, one of our PMCH 2 professors. Okay. Do you have your questionnaire already with you? None yet. You haven't made your questionnaire, group 1?
We have it, Doc.
None yet?
Yes, doctor.
None. So it's important that you have your questionnaire and your dummy tables, okay?
Okay, doc.
Okay. Why are oral and maxillofacial cancer in particular? Is how is it related to alcohol and tobacco as far as behavior is concerned?
Doc, we notice like the people who are consuming alcohol, like heavy alcohol, or like people who are consuming tobacco, chewing tobacco, smoking, or having bitter leaves, like the risk factors for having cancer in them are high.
Okay, so could you go back to your methodology? How will you do your next slide? Research first. How will you choose your sample? Patients, You will look for patients in what? In a tertiary hospital diagnosed with oral and maxillofacial cancer. How will you choose your respondents? I mean,
Doctor, we looked for we looked in a group of 25 to 70 year people, like random people, and there was another set of people who were diagnosed patients of cancer.
again, it's random.
Doctor, there was fewer selective patients who have been recovered from the oral cancer, and most of them were the random patients from age 25 to 70.
Wouldn't it be more prudent if you, for example, you choose a hospital, a tertiary hospital, and then you look at patients there diagnosed with cancer, and then you look at that certain population? Thereby, you will limit your population as well in theory. We are just looking for your protocol anyway. We will not do your research. Do you understand what I'm trying to explain?
Yes, doc.
So instead of, what's the title of your research? 25 to 70 in India, right? You look at the prevalence of oral and maxillofacial cancer, 25 to 70 in a tertiary hospital. So your methodology now becomes, you choose a hospital wherein the prevalence of your maxillofacial cancer is high, okay? And then you look at the characteristics of the patients diagnosed with cancer. Do you understand?
Yes, doc.
Okay. Let's acknowledge the presence of Dr. Macazo to help us improve your research. Thank you, Doctora. We're just on the first group. Okay. Doc Nilo, meron kang idadagdag na comment sa first group? So basically, you're doing a prevalence on risk of patients with oral and maxillofacial cancer in a hospital, and then you will look at risk factors. Okay. Why 25 to 70 interval?
Ma'am, because it's higher in this age group.
Higher in age group, you have a big range. That is a good 50 years.
Yes, ma'am.
So, okay. So you may not specify anymore. Prevalence in general, and then you specify that this particular age would have a higher prevalence. Okay?
Okay, ma'am.
Any questions from the group? Janice, may ano ka? Sa next na lang, no? Sige.
Okay, sige po. Actually, nakita ko na tong ano
Ha?
nila doon.
Ano?
Nakita ko na tong Opo, Doc.
Okay, yun, sige. Yun lang, sabi ko lang sa isang hospital na lang sila para mas maliit ang sample size. In theory. Okay, next group.
Hello, good evening, everyone. So our topic for the research is the relationship of the genetics, lifestyle, and socio-economic status in the prevalence of diabetes mellitus type 2 in an urbanized village of East Delhi. Actually, we took this topic because we have a lot of data for this state or city. There is a lot of health surveys has been already done, so it's easy for us to do the survey. So at the so after the title page, we have the proponents' name, who are members of our group, and then in the next part is the introduction. Uh, as we already knew that diabetes mellitus has an emerging trend in all over the world, so especially in India where there's a huge population, and especially in Delhi, there's a huge population also, as we all know. So I think taking this area for research is very crucial for us. There are various factors which just linked
Let
with the
me
diabetes.
interrupt.
Hello?
Let me interrupt.
Yes, doctor.
There is a there is a journal article that came up, prevalence of diabetes mellitus in an urbanized village of East Delhi. Is this the same as your research?
Actually, doctor, we are using their data, but our topic is different. We are comparing different factors with diabetes mellitus, and they gave diabetes mellitus prevalence only,
Okay.
not same doctor.
So you have to show me now how it is different with this
Okay,
existing journal. Okay?
okay,
Go
fine.
ahead.
Doctor, our main point for this research is to compare different variables like obesity, physical inactivity, diet, and socio-economic factors, which are totally linked with the diabetes mellitus 2, uh, which we were talking about that research. That is only for the diabetes mellitus prevalence. So in the next part is problem statement. Our study basically aims to determine the relationship of genetics, lifestyle, and socio-economic status in the prevalence of diabetes mellitus 2 in an urbanized village of East Delhi. Specifically telling that we basically want to find the variations which are with, which we can find with the diabetes mellitus, like economic status, habits and lifestyle, history of any diabetes in the family, and age of the person, and education status, and the what the amount the person is earning for his living. Next, the objectives of the study. Our general objective is same as of title, to determine the relationship and the prevalence of the diabetes mellitus. So in the specific objectives, as I already said that we have the prevalence of diabetes mellitus, and we are using their data to compare the different variables with that. So our hypothesis basically aims to determine the relationship of different variables with diabetes mellitus. There are null hypotheses and alternative hypotheses. Okay, now is the significance of this study. Diabetes mellitus has reached the epidemic proportions globally. The World Health Organization estimated that there are approximately 300 million cases of diabetes in the world by the year 2025, and the maximum number of cases are expected in India only. And as there is no efficient surveillance system in India for non-communicable diseases, epidemiological studies are urgently needed in this region of the country. In India, a significant proportion of individuals seek treatment from private health facilities in both urban and rural setup. So there are various literature, uh, there are various background of literature, um, from which we can just compare our research. That first is, according to the International Diabetes Federation estimates, around 400 million people had diabetes in 2015, and this number is expected to rise 642 million by 2040. And like this, there are various articles we can find linked to our research. Okay, so I would like to call Vaishnavi to explain further.
Hello, doctor.
Go ahead.
Next slide, please. Yeah. Now we are going to see the review of literature on this study of diabetes mellitus. So first of all, uh, I would like to explain the review of what is review of literature. So generally, we did not truly, ma'am, we did not copy paste from any journal or something. We went through 2 or 3 researches based on diabetes and how this diabetes is affecting mainly in India. So coming to background review, according to the International Federation, estimated that around 415 million people had diabetes mellitus in 2015, and this number is expected to rise to 642 by 2040, as it is already explained previously. And after that, we took one more from federation, international federation, that is estimated that the impaired glucose tolerance was high as the diabetes in all regions like in India. So cost of diabetes care are alarmingly high, and diabetes one of the highest risk factor for the depression. So generally we can relate it like how diabetes is affecting our society right now and what is use of doing this research right now. Excuse me, can you please mute your mics, other members? So as well, creating awareness regarding the prevention of complications and self-care management is more important. The comorbid depressive disorders, as we know, with when a person is affected with diabetes, there are many comorbid disorders he is facing. For example, a person with obesity, for example, take obesity is a factor. So if a person is suffering with obesity, there are many chances for that person to get diabetes. And one more thing is age. If people are having going to their older ages, they are getting, so how these risk factors are affecting to get diabetes. So generally, ma'am, you said that there is a article prevalence shows how much extent the diabetes affected people are there. This relationship of the risk factor shows how this risk factor affecting the population of India. The Indian Women's Health Study reported that diabetes in 2.2% rural and 9.3% urban women. More recent reports from various parts of India showed the further page 6 review of literature 18 increase in prevalence of diabetes and pre-diabetic in urban and rural areas. In generally, it is more affected in urban areas. We know in urban areas generally people are mostly, rural area people are little bit not very much towards the junk food. They mostly rely on their local foods, and also it is much shown in urban area women. And one more thing, against, sorry, the prevalence of diabetes mellitus in India ranges from 5 to 17%, with higher levels found in southern part of the country and in urban areas. So compared to the North India, as a Indian, I can say, ma'am, mostly North Indian people rely much on carbohydrate food. So there are many high percentage getting the diabetes. Diabetes mellitus continue to increase as a result of rapid cultural and social changes, which include aging population, increasing urbanization, dietary changes, reduced physical activity, and unhealthy behavior. Indians are also believed to have greater degree of insulin resistant and stronger genetic predisposition in diabetes. So, estimation of prevalence of diabetes and identification of high risk factors group risk group is essential for planning of community based risk factor reduction. So, by having all this knowledge and by doing this research, we can educate the people how to control their food habits and how to change their social life based on this literature, previous literature, based on this information, how the previous people reported. So based on that, we can bring the awareness among the people to control the diabetes. Thank you, ma'am. And methodology will be explained by our next group member. Thank you.
See, your methodology is methodology of another institution. You have to change.
Hello, ma'am.
Your
Yeah, ma'am.
methodology is a methodology of another institution.
Yes, doctor, it's of different
Yes,
institute
ma'am.
because we are using their data. That's why we mentioned here.
So, if you are going to use their data, you will say that you will, for example, if that is your intention, you will use the journal, a study of of that journal will be analyzed and would would be analyzed according to genetic risk factors, etc., etc. If you're going to use the data of your of if that is the kind of study that you want to do, so that would more or less be a like a critique or a retrospective, or if you are going to look at different journals, you said you are three, you will compare the three, you would like do a meta-analysis on three journals. But this one, it's as if you are the one doing the research community based. So that is not correct. That is what that is my contention. That's why I cut you right from the start that you are doing uh a study that is a repetition already. It's just it came across the article on the internet, and that is you just added a bit and you're using their data. So I think you should go back and look at your study again and reassess on what you want to do. Janice?
Yes, no. I have a lot of comments. Actually, though, when they consulted me regarding their study, and if I remember correctly, what they initially wanted was they want to compare sila ba yung urban from rural, parang like urban from rural practices pertaining to your genetics, and they um so they pick specific specific parameters that they wanted to check, and but now they're showing a different study
Altogether.
so a different study again. So I'm quite confused again regarding um first your problem statements, because it's not jiving with your methodology, it's not jiving with everything that you put there in your research. So what really do you want to do? Do you want to get do you want to know the relationship of those parameters with diabetes mellitus? Do you want to get the prevalence? Do you want to compare two different two different ethnical backgrounds, or what do you really want to do? You have to tell us that in your problem statement and objectives. Okay, and then I don't know what you mean by variation of prevalence. What is variation of prevalence? Sige, you want us to do it step by step? Because from the even with your background, even with your introduction, I'm already quite confused about your introduction. It doesn't tell me what you want to do in your research. You're just telling us everything about diabetes. But what do you really want to do in your research? Because we already know what diabetes is. We already know what diabetes mellitus is. So you don't need to give us that you don't need to give us that information. What we want to see in your proposal is what you want to do with your paper, with your research.
Significant association between adolescent girls and the prevalence of anemia among them.
Do you want to know the prevalence of diabetes in New Delhi?
No, doctor,
Because
we already knew that because we have their data.
yeah, yes, that's correct. You already have that, so you don't need to know the prevalence
No, doctor.
anymore.
Just comparison between the different variables, doctor.
So what is that variable?
In
Because
this
it's
one,
not showing.
Yeah, no, doctor. It was there in problem question. I think it was there.
Sige, you go to the next slide.
It was in the objective also, doctor.
Okay, so sige, stop with the problem statement. Again, when you write the problem statement, it's just okay. It should be a question. It's like a research question. So, and then look at this. So if this one is your problem statement, it is your main problem statement. Relationship of genetics, lifestyle, and socioeconomic status. So, but when you go to sige, go to next slide. Oh, this is different now.
No, ma'am. Actually, this is also included in that only, ma'am. Just specifically, we mentioned this. These are also the problem statements, ma'am.
What do you mean by variation of prevalence?
It's like, doctor, how it is varying with the different economic status. Like the person who is earning less than 10,000 a month, and the person who is earning more than 1 lakh a month, and we just want to compare their diabetes mellitus status with their economic status. And like in the second question, you can see that there's a habit and lifestyle, and we have to compare that the person who is smoking or the person who is not smoking, just comparison the diabetes status between them,
So you
like this,
will
doctor.
reword. Okay, so you have to reword your, restructure your sentence to compare
Okay.
the prevalence of diabetes mellitus, something like that. To compare like that. And specific, if you're gonna do your specific objectives like that, you can just put all of that in one sentence and then make another objective. You understand? What else do you want to know? Do you stop there?
Sorry,
Sige.
doctor.
Sige. So just reword. You have to restructure your specific objectives. Okay? Because it
because
will
all over the
be
place. Streamline, I think you're trying to do so much. But you have to be clear on what you want to do.
Doctor, we will revert, doctor.
Okay, go next.
I
Then
think
you're, then, parang nalito sila.
see, relationship of genetics, lifestyle, etc., etc. Yeah, for diabetes, it's kind of well established. So, what in particular, what do you want to study with regards to diabetes? How could you extend, for example, prevalence with regards to a certain population? You don't need to look at the whole population of Delhi for your study to be significant. Okay? That's why in the first group, I even recommended to look at a smaller population. Then you could look at the whole picture. Okay? You
Okay.
refine it. Can I
Okay,
ask
doctor.
to present again?
Actually, doctor, we already took 451 percent data only, which you said
What?
that, doctor, we only used 451 participants data only from that all research paper. 451 participants, doctor,
Okay.
from which we are using data.
You revise it. You streamline what you want to do. If it is prevalence of diabetes in a certain local and how it was affected by the pandemic, something like that, you could do that. But not use the data of a
Other
previous
studies.
journal. Yeah. Okay? We'll go back to you. Ano nga ba to? Revise your, okay, revise your report. Okay, next group.
Okay. Habang iniintay daw. Sige, andyan na sila.
Ayan na. Again, I think I also commented on this study. I think this is a journal that popped out in Tamil Nadu, India, iron deficiency anemia. Is it a journal from lifted from a journal, another journal also?
Hello, ma'am.
Is it different?
Sorry, ma'am. I cannot get your query, ma'am.
What?
I'm not able to understand your query, ma'am.
Is this a journal that is already published?
Ma'am, we have not taken it from a certain journal, just one. It is a overall information taken from around 2-3 journals.
Okay, go ahead. Okay, start.
Meron na.
Good evening, doctors. So our research topic is on the prevalence of iron deficiency anemia in women of reproductive age in Tamil Nadu, India. So next slide, please. Tamil Nadu is one of the 28 states of India located in the southern part, and it is one of the most urbanized states in the country. However, the status of the women in Tamil Nadu has been subjected to many changes over time. And iron deficiency anemia was found to be the most common type. As we all know, iron deficiency anemia is due to insufficient of the iron, and it usually occurs when the body doesn't have enough of the mineral iron, which is needed to make the red blood cells, enabling them to carry the oxygen. In women of childbearing age, iron deficiency anemia commonly occurs due to heavy menstrual bleeding, and it not only affect their cognitive and motor development, it can also affect their productivity, low birth weight, and maternal mortality. So next slide. Comparing to global scenario in India, India is founded to have the highest prevalence of IDA among the reproductive age. And based on the National Family Health Survey in Tamil Nadu, the prevalence of the anemia was found to be 55.4 and 44.4% respectively. So the associated factors are overlooked to help us in understanding its effect and to evaluate the number of reproductive age of women suffering from iron deficiency anemia. Further explanation will be given by my group members.
Good Good afternoon, doctors. The problem of our research is to study the prevalence of iron deficiency anemia in adolescent girls, pregnant and lactating women in the city of Tamil Nadu of India. This research problem will give us an overview of the general health of these women while checking for a correlation between these women and the levels of anemia amongst them. We have specifically chosen women of reproductive age because menstruation affects the levels of blood and anemia in your body. Um, the benefits of this study is that it will help the women who want to bear children from having adverse effects in their life, especially by creating awareness in the rural areas. It will help them to improve their lifestyle and diet and pay more attention to their nutritional intake. Who can use these results? It can be used by doctors, health workers, especially in rural areas. They should be made aware of the results of our study. They can make people understand and explain the consequences of their diet to their patients and help them modify their own diet to avoid drastic effects which can cost their lives. Thank you.
So coming towards the significance of the study,
Excuse me. Sorry.
briefly.
Can you go back? Sorry. Can you go back to your objectives?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Objective of the study.
Back.
It's there because I think because it is very similar to the journal, also done in Tamil Nadu.
Oh,
I think
ma'am
when
Janice.
when I was approving your topic, that was already my problem.
No, ma'am. Actually, ma'am, we did not have the lecture with ma'am Janice due to some issues. I don't know. So we are not sure about the modifications we are supposed to make in this project.
Oh, it's just Sige. Were you not? Did you not know with me? Did you not
Uh,
consult with me? Are
ma'am,
you
I think
the?
our leader. Yeah. I think the
Uh,
day, the next day we
Sige,
were
it's
going
okay.
to have our lecture, but we did not have. So
Okay.
can we have it later sometime so that we can know about the problems?
But Dr. Andres already told you that this is very similar to um another research. So
Yeah, ma'am. That's
what is
what
different?
we are not very clear about the idea. So that's why we wanted some consultation from your side. Uh,
But I think I saw this paper. Sige, okay. Sige, go ahead first with your
Yeah, let's
with
see if
your
we could
presentation.
validate it a bit. Let us see your methodology. Sige, go ahead. Significance.
so coming towards the significance of the study, we are aiming to determine the number of reproductive aged women suffering from iron deficiency anemia. So this study creates an awareness and acts as guide to the future women as an important guideline to their health and care. The study also aims to be useful researchers in the topic in the future. So the hypothesis claims that there is no significant association between adolescent girls and prevalence of anemia amongst them. But quite different with the lactating or the pregnant woman, the scenario becomes almost reverse. As in the pregnant woman, uh, the risk uh, the risk is high for the premature birth and a low birth weight baby, and also the woman can have the childbearing mother can have postpartum depressions. Yeah,
Why
next
do
slide.
you need, wait, sorry. Why do you need to know about
Heavy.
postpartum depression?
No,
If
ma'am,
you
there's
are going to
just
look
a
at
diff.
IDA, just look at IDA.
Okay, ma'am. Okay,
Mm-mm.
ma'am.
Don't put, you're putting too
Extra
much
data.
variables in here in your research. Just concentrate on what you want to know, which
Okay,
is
ma'am.
your iron deficiency anemia. Don't
Okay,
put
ma'am.
anything else.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Sige.
Good evening, Doc. And the research design. This retrospective population based cross sectional study design allows the investigator to formulate hypotheses about possible association between an outcome and an exposure, and to further investigate the potential relationship between adolescent girls and the prevalence of anemia among them. And the subject of our research includes the hospitals located in Tamil Nadu are the main focus locations for our study. Next. Okay. Method and data collection. This was a 10 years retrospective study. Epidemiological data was collected from the hospital register and causes
Wait,
affecting
wait,
were
wait.
assessed.
This is the same methodology of the journal that you mentioned. Again, like the problem with the second group, you should collect, if you will use data of others, to specify in your data that you will use the results of this journal or collect your own data. Okay?
Ma'am, is it okay if we mention the details of the journal?
And then what? If you use the data of the journal, what will you do?
Ma'am, because everyone, like only some members are in Tamil Nadu, so how will be able to collect personal data?
Why Tamil Nadu? Because the journal was in Tamil Nadu.
No, ma'am, that was the initial topic we selected and then found out information on Tamil Nadu.
Okay.
You see, that's the problem. You got a journal and you are fitting a new study around that journal, and that is what is limiting you. You did not start from a problem, and then you make a study altogether. That is why you are having problems with making your structure, because you are limited, because you are starting already from a certain journal that you have read, instead of starting from a problem. That's why we started from research problem, then hypothesis, then objectives, then review of related literature, then study design. That there was a reason why we studied that one by one. But if we're going to do it this way, then we should have started with appraisal of a journal and then make a study out of these journals. That's where the problem lies. Paano natin ito masasalvage, Clara?
Meta-analysis, if you want, you can just do meta-analysis again. Kaso it's just a prevalence study. Can you do it in...
Ma'am,
Mm,
hello, ma'am.
yes.
Ma'am Janice, can we have a like a small lecture with you for consultation so that
Yeah,
we
we can
know?
consult again with me, but I think I saw this already.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Because we were going to have our lecture, but it got cancelled somehow. So we are not very sure about
Okay.
this project.
But even so, it just I just knew right now that there is another study regarding this. So if that is your problem, that only a few people are in Tamil Nadu, then don't do it there. Where most of you are where, or where can
Ma'am,
you
we are
um
very we are very scattered, living in different regions. So that is the problem.
There are a lot of ways to collect data. You could do mail questionnaire, email surveys, etc. There are a lot of ways that you could go around the problem of a lockdown. And that is what we are trying to tell you. You are very focused on replicating because this is the journal, the studies that have done before. But most of the studies that are published are pre-pandemic. So they could do that. They could go to hospitals. They could do experiments. But not in your case.
so how about let you change the population
Yeah, you
of your
just change the
study if you
population. Prevalence of IDA in adolescents in wherever. Okay?
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. We'll do that
And for
modification.
example, you're looking at adolescents, pregnant, and lactating. Just choose one. Don't um don't make things difficult for you.
Okay, ma'am. We will take just one variable then.
Okay.
have
So
iron deficiency anemia in
In ad,
students.
adolescents.
favorite ko in JFSL medical student. Alright? Refine it.
You just
Okay?
change your population.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Support group.
Pero regarding the iron deficiency anemia, um how will you know if the patient has iron deficiency anemia? So you have blood collection. So how will you do that? So I think no, this is going to be difficult for you to do if um
Because like it
if
or
you need
not,
to deter
ID
deter
anemia is quite objective. You get the hemoglobin level.
mm-mm. It would be see and here estimated by cyan methemoglobin method. So how are you going to do it during the pandemic? So that's another question. One
Uh,
is you think of your population and then you think of your methodology.
okay, ma'am. So what do you suggest we should do?
If you really want to ano to take on your iron deficiency anemia, everything about iron deficiency anemia. Then you can look at other, you can do a meta-analysis, you can do, what else? You can just,
Knowledge.
but
Knowledge, not its food.
you cannot, it would not be feasible for you to do experiments during the pandemic. Dok, tatapusin ba nila yung Dok? Tatapusin nila yung study
Protocol lang, hinihingi ko sa kanila.
hanggang hanggang methodology lang.
Hanggang research protocol lang sila, pero gagawa sila ng methodology. Pero hindi nila, hanggang dami tables lang.
Okay. Kasi pwede ba silang
theory, hindi ubra yan.
Theoretically?
Oo,
Kasi ito kung theoretically, pwede siguro theoretically.
Oh, pwede naman, theoretically.
Pwede po kung
Pwede,
kasi kung
pwede.
po.
Pwede.
So, pwede. So you can still use this. So it could be like we're gonna pretend that you're in the ideal setting without the pandemic, but just make sure that it is feasible. Your methodology is feasible. Okay.
Okay, mom. We'll look forward to that.
But do not copy the same everything with the other study. You can use it in your review of related literature. Did you flash your review of related literature?
No, ma'am. We did not show it.
So you can put that in your review of related literature. But do not copy everything. Diba?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right.
Okay, next.
Thank you, ma'am.
4. Sige, go ahead.
My presenter is still waiting outside in the lobby.
It's in the lobby. No one's for admitting.
Ito pala yung rural and urban. Mali.
No one is in the waiting room.
Doctor, our talk is about and
Good morning, everyone. My group is from Group 4. So our topic is about comparison of the prevalence and risk factor for tuberculosis between urban and rural area in South India. Actually, this wasn't our original topic, but due to the advice that was given after we done our whole topic, this topic is much better for our research proposal. Next slide, please. So introduction, tuberculosis, as we know, is a serious infection disease that mainly affects the lung. This is very prevalent in India because there's a lot of death. 26 out of 100,000 as quoted by the study from the Rajnal in 2015, and it is ranked up to 7 in the public health challenge faced by India. So there are actually about 3 programs that was initiated in India to combat this TB. The first one was the revised national tuberculosis control program in the 1997, and the second is the national tuberculosis emulation program just recently, which is in 2020. And all of these programs have been initiated since 1962, and all are free. Next. So this is our research question, which we want to collect information about the comparison between the urban and rural areas population in South India. So our research study aims to find out the prevalence of TB in South India, risk factor, its risk factor for individuals with and without previous medical condition, as well as the impact of socio-economic profile for TB diseases in South India, as well as the last one, the which one, the urban or the rural areas of South India is highly prevalent in TB transmission. Next, please. So the significance of our study, as you can see, is we want to conduct a comparison test between the TB prevalence between urban and rural areas or population in South India, which is a multifactorial disease. So we want to enlighten the trends or the patterns that could be seen in how people between the rural and urban area actually gets the TB. So we would like to do a case control study using questionnaires that will take a span of 5 years from 2015 to 2020 by going to different facilities in South India to collect the information, which we will do in where we will collect the information in Microsoft Excel as well as usage of chi-square. This will help to make up for the incomplete clinical data. So discovery of high potential areas or community based on the collection of questionnaire will be able to reinitiate the TB program that is needed to target to this different population, which can be individualized or targeted in order to aid in the treatment and follow up. So this could serve as a study to track these barriers and also make access and treatments to these patients or community who have a hard time to get this treatment. Next slide, please. So we have done 5 literature review of over extensive research of 25 articles that we gathered in PubMed as well as Science Direct and other types of literature reviews. So by doing this literature review, what can we find out? We could provide key characteristics to look out during inclusion criteria as well as exclusion criteria in our participants for our questionnaires to find out the prevalence between urban and rural population. Next, please. Next. So the first study is by Singh H in 2020. This article helps to revise the outcome of the first program, the RNTPS. So the similarity with our study is that it targeted 60% of the urban population, which makes up the healthcare associate, and also 72% in the rural population. What does this show? This shows that there's a lack of healthcare treatment facilities available for people in the rural area, despite it already being in the year of 2020. So we conclude that if the program that was initiated in the urban can be placed also in the rural area, it will help to unveil the disparities between each areas of population. Next, please. Our next one is by Soham Gupta. It's an article based also by the RNTCP program. The similarities is it targets the Tamil Nadu area in the south of India. This highlights that there's a lack of awareness of this TB transmission, such as a glucose tolerance, which also plays a part in prevalence of TB transmission. So this concludes that patient who has DMs also should be screened for tuberculosis. Next, please. Another study by Navaravanan in 2011. The similarity of this study is tackles the Trinovalu district, which also undergoes the RNTCP treatment program. This highlights that actually reactivation of TB also plays a part with age as well as in clustering. So this shows that we should um, the mechanism of TB transmission helps play a part in the risk factor for TB transmission is highly prevalent in South India. Next, please. Another study by Muhammad in 2017. This study helps us to range the inclusion data where we wanted the participants to be around 35 to 60, whereby their age group is around 35 to 54. It also shows that the urban and the rural population that has TB transmission. This shows that the rural population has more TB transmission compared to the urban area, as well as the gender of men, making majority of the TB transmission of 74% compared to the 68% in urban and rural respectively. What does this highlight? This highlight that males are twice more likely prone to get TB and they are less likely to seek treatment compared to the female counterpart. So this clearly shows that the social profile correlates with the geographical location of TB transmission. And lastly is by this study, Draharna in 2015. This study population is in Chennai city, which studies the geographical location with the prevalence of different TB strains. So this shows that the distribution of TB is high and appeared to be more concentrated in some areas of the city. And therefore, we need to rethink current TB control strategy that is individualized or targeted to the needs of different population, as well as to aid in the treatment and follow-up. And that's what that is the purpose of our study. Because majority of the previous programs has not unveil any new or to reduce the TB prevalence. So by doing this study, we can rethink of current TB situation or new TB control strategies that we can help to reduce this TB transmission and finally make India to be TB free, possibly by 2025, which is quoted by one of the studies that we also did our research literature on. Next, please. So our objective and hypothesis and limitation of our study, our current objective is to compare the risk factor between urban and rural population and which area is more highly prevalent to get TB. So that is how we will highlight the possible reason for the increase of TB among individuals in different cities, which we will show later. So the specific objective is the same. We will help to point out the geographical location based on urban and rural area affecting the socio-economic status, as well as to build out the disparities between these two economy in building to readdress the program to address this burden. And below are our hypothesis and our scope of limitation, which we will not include TB in children as well as in pregnant women. And also one limitation is our questionnaire will be done in English. So it might be a bit biased. We can't cover all the languages in India. So we use the common language, which is English, which we will show later on. Next, please. So this is our research design, which we mainly did a pilot study which will cover 3 urban and 2 rural cities as seen there. We also use a population calculator, which we have done in different cities, and we have come out with this participant number, which is 7,530 within a span of 5 years. I've already explained the inclusion criteria as well as the exclusion criteria and our instrument, which we will analyze using Microsoft Excel. Next. The gaps in our study is that why TB is still prevalent because people have less access to treatment. They also have different complications because TB is a multifactorial disease. People are in different areas. They also have poor quality care. They have limited awareness, and it is found out that people also have healthcare seeking behavior. And it is found out that why TB vaccine is not effective against TB because it's found out by this study in 2016 whereby the immune cells has a delay activity to prevent this TB from being at least in the immune response to be multiplied. Next. So we did a timeline whereby we will address how we are going to do the study over a span of 5 years. Next, please. So this is our dummy table that we did in the document, which addresses how we are going to use the funds that will be given to us in order to do this study. Next, please. We also did a request letter to ask for a participation from the people who are going to do the questionnaire, as well as with the different facilities in the cities that we have targeted, whether they will allow us to do the studies on their patient there, because they have to review that their which patients have TB and which patient doesn't fit into either our inclusion or exclusion criteria. Next. And this is an example of our questionnaire. This is just a few questions. We actually built 100 questionnaires in our project. These are the main questionnaire. We need to know the age because we are targeting at least 18 to 60 years old. The sexual, whether it's male or female, because male is much more prevalent to get the disease. What's their education level, to know whether they are aware about TB, and what's their occupation. Some occupations are more prevalent to get TB. Next. Okay, see, this is to know the another part of the questionnaire, to know their knowledge about TB as well as their practice of community-based program. We also want to know how long they have stopped taking the TB project. We want to know what are the reasons why they stopped deciding to take TB treatment. We would like to know that, and how long they will undergo the treatment. How long is their duration? When will they stop the TB? So this will help us to address how we can build programs to add on to the previous programs that the government has built. So that is how we are going to combat the comparison between the urban and the rural populations. So we would like to find out about that. Next slide, please. And this is our bibliography that we did. Next. And these are the contributors, my group members who have helped me achieve this. And also we would like to thank Dr. Janice for her contribution and inputs which made our research project successful. Thank you so much everybody for listening. That's the end of our presentation.
Well, of all who has presented, one of the better ones. How will you choose your urban and rural population? What's your basis? If ever you will choose a city that you will do your project, your research on, theoretically, how will you choose your
Theoretically, we have chosen 5 of the cities that are more prevalent in the rural and urban population. So we are going to do that in different facilities in the area.
You have chosen it because it is the one with the highest prevalence of tuberculosis.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Good. All right.
Thank you so much.
Okay. One of the better ones so far. I am commending your group for and Dr. Makaso for a good presentation. Okay, let's proceed with group 5. You could limit your presentation to 5 to 10 minutes. What we want is the title, what you want to do, and your methodology. With that, we all, more or less we know how to comment. Okay. All right, go ahead.
Yes, doctor. This is group 5. Our topic is prevalence of obesity-related disease and risk factors among the middle-aged adult of urban population in India during 2013 to 2017. Okay, next. Next, these are the group members. We can go next to the next slide. Next, please. Okay. Obesity is a complex disease involving an excessive amount of body fat. It is a problem that increases the risk of other disease and health problems like heart problems or diabetes. About 13% of the world's population, 11% of men, and 15% of women were obese in 2016. So we are conducting a research to show how obesity has affected the world and more specifically in India. Next slide, please. Obesity is serious because it's associated with poor mental health and outcomes and reduced quality of life. In India, abdominal obesity is one of the major risk factors for CVDs. Our research mainly focused towards the middle-aged adult population residing purely in major cities or as the general urban population of India during 2013 to 2017. Next. Okay. So the general objective for the study is to estimate the prevalence of obesity-related diseases and determine the risk factors of the adult and urban population of India. Specifically, we want to measure if there is a significant relationship between the prevalence of obesity-related disease and the
Sorry, excuse me. Can everybody mute your microphones? We cannot hear the presenter.
Could you just unmute
Yes.
again? I muted all
Yes.
right. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, so the objective is to determine if there is a significant relationship between the prevalence of obesity-related disease and the risk factors in middle-aged adults in India. Okay, next. In recent days, the changes in lifestyle of middle-aged adults are more prone to obesity. As our research focuses on prevalence of obesity disease, here we are going to conclude the importance of dietary habits and perception of balanced diet. As obesity is not just a cosmetic concern, but it's also a medical problem that increases the risk of variety of disease such as high blood pressure, diabetes, coronary disease, and certain cancers also. Next. The public should be educated to improve their knowledge, awareness, and attitudes regarding obesity and its consequences. The research information should be provided with conjugation with messages on preventive measures to ensure people about unhealthy lifestyles, which could lead into variety of risk and also how to improve them. Next, please. Okay, so let's go for the hypothesis. The null hypothesis is there is no significant relationship between prevalence of obesity and the risk factors. And the alternative hypothesis is there is a significant relationship between prevalence of obesity and other risk factors. Okay, next. Okay, so the background of our study is in developing countries like India, the increasing overweight and obesity has coincided with demographic and epidemiological transition in which mortality and fertility have declined and their lifestyle related disorders have become more common. Urbanization is associated with changing in dietary patterns and less physical activities. Next. So globally, approximately 39% of population were classified as overweight or obese in 2014, doubling since 1975. It has a notable increase in burden of non-communicable diseases. Some studies also report that 27.8% of Indians would be overweight and 5% obese by year 2030. Next, please. The prevalence of overweight and obesity is higher in urban as compared to rural because of lifestyle choices, basically. And obesity is a main risk factor for a range of non-communicable diseases, which includes diabetes, and it's a major risk factor. Next, please. Okay, so the methods we are going to use is we'll use a cross-sectional research data. Next, please. And for it, the subjects we will choose are, of course, middle-aged people from in urban India, and we'll take the cases from 2013 to 2017. And the participants that we will select will be the people who have BMI higher than 29.9, which is the category of obese. We excluded 29.9 because it's not considered an obese. And let's go to the next, please. Next slide, please. And the data was measured using body mass index, which is body weight in kilogram height per meter square. That is kg per meter square. Next. Okay, so the three methods that can be used to determine if the person is obese or not, which is BMI that we just talked about. Second is the waist size, and third, other risk factors. These ranges of BMIs are used to describe levels of risk. we have overweight, which is not obese, but it's borderline. So and that BMI is 25 to 29.9. So we rejected 29.9. And then we have three classes, 1, 2, 3 of obesity, which can range from 30 to 40, and different classes are divided 1, 2, 3. Okay, next. Okay, so in this cross-sectional study, we made a study performer that was we recorded cases of obesity, hypertension, and diabetes mellitus from each year, 2013 to 2017, and the data was we used the correlation coefficient. We correlated all these data with each other: hypertension with obesity and diabetes with obesity. And next, please. So these are the dummy tables that we will use. Year-wise, we'll have the cases of obesity, diabetes, and hypertension, and then we'll use the correlation coefficient. Next slide, please. This is like this table we'll correlate overweight and hypertension. And next slide. Correlation of overweight and obesity with diabetes mellitus. And by plotting the correlation coefficient on a graph, if it's a positive correlation, we can go back. Can we go back to the hypothesis slide, please? The hypothesis slide. So if the data shows a positive correlation, that will prove the alternative hypothesis that there is a significant relationship between hypertension, diabetes with obesity. And if there is a negative correlation, that will prove the null hypothesis that there is no significant relationship between those two things. So that will be a research.
What population would you target? What urban population?
Middle-aged people of urban India.
Well, urban India is very big. What urban city?
We can take Delhi, or Delhi works for us because most of us are from North India, so we can take that.
How would you do your sampling? I mean, you're looking at a retrospective study from 2013 to 2017, and that's quite impossible to look at all cases of obese, hypertensive, and diabetics. How will you do your sampling?
We'll collect secondary data. Of course, this cannot be primary because this cannot be collected firsthand. So we will have to collect secondary data from hospitals or clinics.
Okay, secondary. So you could focus on one hospital if it will make your study more doable, more realistic.
Okay.
You could. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Or you could do a meta-analysis if you want. But I think just to learn the process, I think one particular hospital would be fine.
Okay, we can.
Janice. Group mo din ata to no? Pa rin?
There. Hindi sila nagpa-check sa akin do.
Hindi ba nagpa-check? Kaya yun lang.
4 groups lang. Ako, actually, I'm a bit confused about what you want to do. Retrospective. So you're gonna do a retrospective study. So it's like literature review, or you're gonna do your.
As the doctor just told us right now, we can shift to just one hospital and not go for the retrospective. We can use current data as well as collecting from just one hospital. So
you can do a retrospective in one hospital.
Okay.
You can get previous charts, previous data, census only from one hospital. So you will not so it won't be very difficult for you, because realistically, if you're gonna do it if you're gonna do data review from a lot of hospitals, it would take you time because you have to get permission, so you have to do a lot of stuff. So realistically, you can do it in one hospital. But I want to know what is it you really want, because obesity, okay, obesity related, what do you want to know? Is it obesity, or
No.
you want to know
Correct. Doctor. The
Sorry,
risk
just
which are
unmute again.
Yes, doctor. So, what the research we want to focus on the risk factors which are related to obesity. So, we'll use a sample who are already obese. So, the people who are above BMI 30, and in those people, we'll check for hypertension and diabetes, and then correlate if it is directly connected to obesity or not. Because diabetes can be genetical also. So, some cases like the group two's research was based on diabetes mellitus, and they considered genetical. There can be cases like that also, but we'll focus majorly if it is because of obesity or not. We'll have to check the family history also.
Can you go to the methodology? So you want to know if what are the risk factors that what are the risk factors of obesity related diseases? What are the obesity related diseases that you have targeted, or what
Hypertension,
are
diabetes.
those? Hmm? Hypertension and diabetes.
Yes.
And ma'am, the major disease in India will be like a cardiovascular disease. So we'll focus on that also.
So maybe you can focus, because if you say it's obesity related diseases, then that would be a lot of diseases that you will be looking at. So maybe you can specify the diseases, or
We can go for CVD, the coronary vascular.
CVD.
Yeah.
Risk factors. So, so you want to know if obesity is a risk factor. Again, you want to know if obesity is what you want to know if
Yeah, let's
obesity
go to
will
the
be a risk
technical.
factor.
It's the prevalence of obesity and the risk factors.
Because obesity itself is a risk factor for CVD, for um, diba? For diabetes, for CVD. Obesity is a risk factor. It's one of the risk factors that is already established. And I get confused again. So you want to know, can you go to, you want to know if obesity, if what are, you want to know what are the risk factors
Uh,
for CVD?
Yes, we were going for a wider concept now, but yes, we can focus on just one disease like CVD. Right now, we were focusing on hypertension and diabetes.
Again, can you say it again? I know your research. What you want to do?
So, what we want to correlate obesity and the other diseases like hypertension, diabetes, and CVD.
So okay, so you want to know if what is the relationship of obesity to CVD and DM and
Yes.
diabetes?
Yes.
Because that is already established that obesity is a risk factor for CVD and diabetes. One of the common risk factor. So what new thing or what new idea are going to investigate on? Do you understand me?
Yes, doctor.
So what will you what new data will your research contribute if we already know that this is already established as a risk factor? Your obesity is a risk factor for CVD. Ah? It is already, you understand?
Yes, doctor, I understand. But as now we were going for a retrospective study, so we could show on a graph how the data changed within these years. Is the Are the risk factors more increased during the years? Maybe it was low in 2013 and then increased over the next 5 years. Maybe it decreased.
I think you will get that it is just the same. Obesity is still the same. Sige nga, can I see your
What is the, if you will look at the year by year change, what is your expected? For
Sorry, doctor, I
example,
can't hear you.
any obesity, CVD, or diabetes?
I'm sorry, doctor. What do you want me to show?
what do you expect to see in your study?
Uh, we are expecting to. Uh, there we have two hypotheses: the null hypothesis and the alternate hypothesis. So we are trying to prove the null hypothesis wrong, that there is no significance. There's no significant relation in these things, but we're trying to prove that there is.
Okay, so here is my take on your study. So we already established that your obesity is related to your CVD and your diabetes. So I will expect that there will be no difference through the years regarding obesity and CVD. So you have to so that it will not be new data for us. So what other thing can you investigate on?
Doctor, actually, we have chosen the middle-aged people, like middle-aged adults who are fall in the age between 40 to 65, and these people are more prone to morbidity. So we are trying to establish that we can aware the next generation, and also the recent pandemic situation, the obesity rate so much increase all age levels. So we are trying to establish a risk factor for the next generation so that we can aware them and also changing the lifestyle. So that's what we are trying to focus.
How about you just no, focus on obesity itself, the obesity and the risk factors for obesity, how the people become obese, okay, lifestyle factors, okay, the time they spend on TV, the sedentary lifestyle, instead of trying to um, determine if there is a relationship with CVD and obesity, because we already know there is. How about you just focus on your obesity, the risk factors for obesity, like sedentary lifestyle, like the kind of work, the kind of the number of hours that they sleep, something like that, instead of relating it to CVD. If you want, if that is your if that is your goal to create awareness, so maybe you can just look at why do these middle-aged people become obese. So maybe you can focus on that instead of seeing the relationship of obesity with those diseases.
Okay, doctor, then we'll change the topic accordingly with the risk factor for the obesity.
Mm-mm. You, you can talk among your group if you want to do that. If that is your significance of your study, you want to create awareness on how to prevent obesity in middle-aged people.
Hi, good evening. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
Go ahead.
Yes,
Dr. Lopez, can I
Yes,
make a
doctor.
suggestion for the group?
Yes.
Yes, of
Um,
course.
you know what's interesting? why not make a prevalent study of obesity in a certain age group in India? Because uh, we have we have this notion that in India you're vegetarian, right? Majority of the people in India are vegetarian. I assume, right? So
And
why not?
also non-veg, non-vegetarian are also there.
But yes,
Yeah,
a
why
lot of
not make a prevalent study? Meaning, how many percentage of the population, for example, select a certain age, for example, 15 to make it younger because it's quite interesting to see whether obesity, because in America, obesity is prevalent in the young. Why not do a study in India whether Indian children or Indian teenagers are obese? Make a prevalence study. That's interesting, right? And then
Okay,
when you
sure.
have the prevalence study, for example, how many are obese, now you can know why they are obese. You can insert the risk factor there, right? That's my opinion.
Yeah,
That's
sure,
a
doctor.
quite interesting study, right? Because of your diet, right? It's very different from the Western countries, right?
yes,
That's my
doctor.
Yeah,
opinion.
also the
You
pandemic year,
can
this.
take my opinion or not, but I think that would be very interesting. The prevalence of obesity in, for example, in ages 16 to 21, for example. Make the population very specific. For example, children, like that, preschoolers, like that, if there's any, right? Well, that's my suggestion. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, doctor,
Thank
for
you,
taking suggestion.
Lopez. So does it make it a little clear or a little more focused compared to what we are having?
हेलो सलाम अलैकुम भैया। वालेकुम सलाम। सो गया था? नहीं सोया नहीं था, क्लास में था, वो दूसरे फोन में था।
Okay, I think Dr. Nila's suggestion is valid. Is it clear
Yeah, sure, doctor.
for group 5? Any
Yes,
question?
doctor. No, we'll change the topic accordingly as Dr. Lopez
Okay, we will
suggested.
work on that. Okay, children.
Yeah, thank you, doctor.
If, for example, in your class, very not a lot would be on the obese side. In compared to the prevalence of obesity here, primarily because of diet. So it's interesting to look at it closer. Okay.
Yeah, okay, doctor.
Group 6. Okay, so you could you could go back to your study and refine it. So the next time we present, we will see our improvement. Group 6.
Hello, doctor.
Yes, go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Megha. Our topic is mental health and depression among the people during the COVID 19 lockdown in India. Let's go with the introduction. In January 2020, the WHO declared the outbreak of a new coronavirus disease, COVID 19, to be a public health emergency of international concern. In March 2020, WHO made the assessment that COVID 19 can be characterized as a pandemic. The government of India, under Prime Minister Narendra Modi, declared a nationwide lockdown for 21 days from 24th March 2020. The lockdown was placed when the number of cases confirmed in India were approximately about 500. The psychological effects of the pandemic are best understood in terms of psychiatric and psychological problems. Our research questions are: what impact did the COVID-19 lockdown phase had on the people of India? What are the risk and protective factors are associated with mental health during the COVID-19 lockdown in India? What are the effective inventions taken by the government during the period? General objectives. In general, this study aims to determine the effect on mental health among the people of India during the COVID-19 lockdown phase 25th March to 31st May. Specific objective: to determine how the lockdown phase has affected the people of various age groups, to determine if the government has taken certain steps to deal with the mental health of the people during the COVID lockdown phase. Hypothesis: the lockdown phase has affected the people from all age groups. Yes, the government of many states, particularly Kerala, come up with the many centers addressing the various mental health problems and also programs like Ottikala Uppamunde. You are not alone. We are together with you. Have organized. Significance of study. The above study aims at providing high degree information regarding the mental health among the people of India during the pandemic's lockdown phase 25th March to 31st May 2020. Hello.
Hello, go ahead. Yeah, that's better.
Yes, doctor. The consequence of the COVID-19 impact not only the physical health and well-being but also the mental health. Research design, retrospective correlational study design. These subjects. In this methodology, we have interviewed the different age groups and of different parts of India because all group members are from different parts of the country. The range of research and analyzing qualitative data. Data collection method, qualitative research technique. Qualitative data collection methods play an important role in impact evaluation by providing information useful to understand the processes behind observed results and access changing in people's perceptions of their well-being. The next part will be continued by Harin, the doctors.
Operational definitions. COVID-19 pandemic and lockdown has brought about a sense of fear and anxiety around the globe. This phenomenon has led to short-term as well as long-term psychosocial and mental health implications for children and adolescents. The quality and magnitude of impact on minors is determined by many vulnerability factors like developmental age, educational status, pre-existing mental health condition, being economically underprivileged, or being quarantined due to infection or fear of infection. Slide. Data processing and analysis, longitudinal based study and qualitative approach. We conducted a review and collected articles and advisories on mental health aspects of children and adolescents during the COVID-19 pandemic. We used population, general population, medical staff, threatening patients with COVID-19, general public, frontline nurses, non-frontline nurses, individuals in self-isolation for 14 days. Our methodology Our methodologies are online survey, cross-sectional self-rated questionnaire, cross-sectional self self-related survey on mobile and survey mobile apps. Slide. Our target group are young children, parents, pediatricians, teachers or school counselors, mental health care workers, school-going children and adolescents, teachers or school counselor, parents, peer group, online support systems, mental health care workers, children with special needs, parents. Next slide. Types of personal types: principal investigator 30 days, sub investigator 30 days, regulatory coordinator 10 days, data coordinator 5 days, research coordinator 5 days. Facilities: depression, anxiety, and stress scale, impact of event scale, revised questionnaire, Petersburg sleep quality index, social support rate scale, Chinese version of vicarious transmittation scale, self-rating, anxiety scale, Stanford Acute Stress Reaction Questionnaire, sleep quality index, personal social capital scale, budget. The allotted budget for the study is 12,000 INR. This will cover the professional fee of satisfaction linguistic that will be hired by group, and also the cost of protective equipment and travel expense. Proponents of biodata: Dr. Lizzie Thomas. Dr. Lizzie Thomas is a medical doctor specializing in
What? Why are you looking? What is that? Who is that? Your proponent should be you, the ones who are making the paper. Do you mean that those are the people who made the paper?
Sorry, doctor. Actually, we did not get the meaning of the proponents. We thought that the person, we did not know that it was supposed to be our name. We'll change that, doc. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, doc.
Go back to your methodology. Go back to your methodology. How you collect data? Methodology. So how will you measure mental health and depression among during the lockdown? Methodology. Go to your methodology. Data collection. Where's your data collection? There. How will you collect your data? Okay, so how will you, so for example, in whatever is your population, how will you measure mental health and depression during lockdown? Or for example, you will send emails to people, okay? And you would do a survey with regards to quality of life during the pandemic. So how would you go about it?
Hello, ma'am. Ma'am, if you are talking first about the methodology, we have used different methodology for the different population. Like if we have research for the general population, we took data for the general people. So we use the online survey, like the different apps we can find out on the, on mobile phone.
That's
So
what I'm asking. Do you have questions, your samples for the online survey? Sample questions or none yet?
yes, ma'am, we have sample questions as well.
Can you show? It's not here.
In the starting, bro, will you please move the slide? That are the research questions. Next. Yes, here.
Oh, that's your objective. Your questionnaire. Where do you have your questionnaire? I think you have none yet.
No, doc. Like one-to-one, like survey.
Yeah, like your survey regarding
Yeah.
what
No,
is the
doc.
state of mental health.
Yes, doc. Actually, we did an interview with people like conventionally, whoever are around us, but we did not do a survey, doc.
Are you? It's like how How many
Yeah,
people did you interview? So look,
it was
if you interviewed people, you could put that as your methodology.
क्लास चल रही है इसकी
actually. Can you pardon, doc?
प्रेजेंटेशन हो रहा है तो मेरा ग्रुप
If you
9 है
interview people,
Yes, doc.
you could put that as your methodology and then you analyze their answers.
Okay, doc. Okay.
Or you
We'll
could
put.
implement it with a survey in your methodology. But show your questions, show the questions that you ask, and
Yes.
show their answers. All right? And then
Okay, okay,
tally
doc.
it in a table.
We'll have to tally that in a table.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, doc.
Jani. Jani. Kaya isa pa? Milo. I think we could have one last for today, group 7. So please, the title, short background on why you want this study, and go directly to the methodology so we will be fast. Okay? Group 7.
Hello, good evening to everyone. This is a research regarding a study on the prevalence of diabetes mellitus type 2 among adult population in peri-urban area of West Tripura, India. Can you please next slide? Okay. Introduction regarding the what we had done in research, like a
Let's
diabetes.
begin about diabetes. Sige. Next
Okay.
slide.
Yeah, this is
No, next slide. Okay. Okay.
this
Go
is the
ahead.
research. This is the research questions and the problems. The first one: can type 2 diabetes be cured or reversed? What is the best way to achieve this? And is there a point beyond which the condition cannot be reversed? How do you identify people? How do you identify people at high risk of type 2 diabetes and help to prevent the condition from developing? What is the best way to encourage people with type 2 diabetes, whoever they are, wherever they live, to self manage their conditions, and how should it be delivered? Okay, next. How do stress and anxiety influence the management of type 2 diabetes, and does a positive mental well-being have an effect? How can people with diabetes type 2 be supposed to make lifestyle changes to help them to manage their conditions? How effectively are the lifestyle changes? Example, taking of low glucose diet. Why does the type 2 diabetes get progressively worse every time? What is the most effective way to slow or prevent progressive, and how can this be best measured? Objective to the study. General objective. The objective of this study is to determine the correlation of the prevalence of diabetes mellitus and associated factor in a sample of adult population in a peri-urban area of West Tripura. A specific objective to determine if there are significant relationship between the type 2 diabetes mellitus and age group using Pearson correlation, to determine if there are significant association of type 2 diabetes mellitus with family history of diabetes mellitus. Next. And next part is done by the.
Good evening, doctor. Next slide, please. It's hypothesis. Yes. So, there are many studies conducted by different people for the prevalence of diabetes. But it is said No, the hypothesis only. The hypothesis slide. Hello? Yes.
Hello.
Yes. So we see it is noted that the physical activity of a person has a strong relation in the prevalence of diabetes, and overweight and obese people are more prone to have type.
Excuse me. Your title is very much similar to an existent journal. Is this your reference or this is the same journal altogether?
This is the reference, doctor.
What's
Yes,
the
doctor, it
difference?
is. Doctor, actually, the study on this topic is already conducted by like 2000 between 2016 and 2017, but there wasn't a specific type of the diabetes. Like they haven't mentioned the specific type. So when we were searching for the topic of our research, we got this and we got to know that this. Uh, area which we have choose this area still have a prevalence of diabetes mellitus and it's increasing day by day. So when we research on that, we got to know it's more about type 2. So our research is based on that and we just took the journal as a reference.
I think your study. So you can already read this
Yeah.
in the books, in the literature. There is not much new thing that you can investigate on. When you read the research questions, those are all you can read in the book. And also when you showed the objectives, um, I think you are confused also by what you want to do. And then when you are with your hypothesis, how do you write your hypothesis? You have the null and the alternative hypothesis, not this one. So what do you really want to do? What new thing can you show to us? What new thing can you investigate on? Because if you're just going to do prevalence studies, there is already prevalence study. So what new
Ma'am,
thing do you want to know? Hmm.
Ma'am, after having a study of the several hypotheses regarding the diabetes mellitus type 2, we had gone through the some practical procedure example in uh, what the written in the hypothesis we gone through practical in tertiary hospitals regarding what is the prevalence, what is the main causes of diabetes type 2. It's common in we found it's common in adult with age between the 40 to 60 years and very common after the age 60 years. So this is also we found in a tertiary hospital in our locality. We found that obese people have the uh, common cause of diabetes mellitus type 2, as well as it's a family history is also a major prevalence risk factor.
So you already did the study?
After having the looking of hypothesis of several authors, we gone through
Ah,
in tertiary hospital in our locality.
do you understand what I'm trying to say? This is already established in your books. Everything that you are telling me, it is already established in your books. So you need to think of something. You need to think of something new that you are interested in knowing more about, because overweight, obesity is already established as a risk factor for diabetes. Do you understand?
Yes, doctor.
Hi, can someone hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, doctor.
Yes,
Yes.
okay. I think what Dr. Janice is saying is that that is already known, right? There's no interesting thing about it anymore. And Dr. Audrey already found the same study in the in it's a existing study already, the same town, the same area in India.
And it's not the first time that your group had this problem. The first time that you submitted in your channel, I look back at your submissions. I have said to you time and again, two times you submitted that it is not your own study. This one, it got by me initially. I did not able to see the similar journal. But now I am seeing that it's already an existent journal. Okay? Janice Nilo, maybe it's also my fault when I provided an example of a research study. The one that I showed them was a prevalence study. That's why medyo dinudumog tayo ng prevalence
Uh,
etos ngayon. Yun yung
yeah,
example ko.
you know what, guys? All we want, all we wanted in this topic is that we want you to. We don't expect you to do the study,
Or be
right?
researchers.
We don't expect you to do the study. We just want you to know how to initiate a study. Do you understand?
And
So
understand
why
the
not make it
study.
simple? Why with all this diabetes and all this complicated study? Why not make it simple? Right?
Yes, doctor.
Yes, doctor.
No, honestly, tell me honestly, is this you just copy this study? In all honesty, did you copy this study? It's the same title. What?
Doctor, the title is same. Like we choose the same topic, but the content we have is like different. We did the research and then we wrote it here.
Doctor,
It's
our
not
also
from.
the doctor, our locality is also a different. Our our many friends did the topic regarding the diabetes, but they choose the North Indian states, and we chosen the different different area for the research.
But
So
your
this
title is the same.
it's the
If
titles
you
are the
chose
same.
a different area, then why not put the different area in the title? You see?
There is a area already mentioned in the title. It's Tripura.
Yeah, it's the same title in the journal. Tripura.
Yes, doc. Yes, we have choose the same topic, but the content is different. But anyways, we'll choose the another topic.
Okay.
Doctor will do again with the another topic.
Who's this? Who's talking?
Identify yourselves, guys.
Who was the last
Because we
one
cannot
who
see.
spoke?
I want
Which
to know
one?
you. I want to know who are these people.
Do you have a name slide?
Mm.
Group 7 is, let me do a roll call. Vishal Kumar, Namit Kumar, Amrita Kumar, Kumar Lakava Vasu Surendra, Lamror Adarsh Lokande, Tina Devi Lukram, Steady Lingdo, Mukesh Madapan, Ganadurga Manivanan, Manoharan Calvin Priyanka Gajana, Manwar, Sandy, Stephen Marwin. At
Who's Kumar Vishaldo? Si Kumar Vishal yung
Vishal Kumar.
nagsasalita kanina.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. For the rest, I think we will end here. And continue next week. But for the rest, Please, this is collated, right? Could you send this to my email so that I could look at it? We would try to look at it beforehand. Please, um, if your research has the same title as another journal, it comes up during the internet search. Okay, it could be checked. So um please find a topic that is your own and then you start from there. That's what I keep explaining a while ago. The problem is you're starting with a pattern journal and then you make a research study. You did not start with a research problem. You did not go through the steps, a research problem, and then you make a hypothesis objective, then come up with a study. That's why we're getting problems. Okay? So for the next reporters, I hope you take that into consideration so that we get improved reports next
Yes.
week. Yes, Johnny.
Yes po.
May sasabihin ka?
Ako?
May
Guys,
Mayroon akong, ma'am, meron kasi akong, pwede pong ibang i-message kasi nasa conference ako.
Excuse me, Doc.
Message mo na lang
Yes.
muna, ha? Okay.
Doc, I have posted the topic in MS Teams, but you haven't seen or accepted the topic. So I'm not sure if I should present the same or not.
Who's
I will
this?
look at it in a while. Okay.
Okay, Doc. Thank you so much.
Guys, can I make a suggestion? Make it simple. You know what? It's like, for example, who's that? Can that be muted? Who's
Hey,
that?
Janice at.
Okay. Okay. Can you just make it simple? For example, the average viewing time in Netflix of
The pandemic.
15 years old. Yeah, something like that, something that interests you. It doesn't need it doesn't have to be a complicated disease like diabetes, hypertension, something simple. You understand? For example, what the depression, for example, in COVID. Now, to make it more specific, add an age group, for example. Right? Because when you talk about depression in COVID, that's very broad. There's so many age groups that the population is too huge. Make it more specific. You understand? Think of it that's something that interests you, that's interesting. You don't have to copy from, for example, search the internet. Make it as an inspiration, not to copy it as is. You understand, guys?
Yes, Doc.
Yes, doctor.
Uh, make it simple. No more. We don't. The purpose of this is mainly just to see if you know how to make a research proposal.
And for
Okay?
you to understand the research process.
Yes.
That's
Okay.
it. Not to make researches out of you. Although, acceptably, when you're doctors, it's part of your life. So, better start now.
We want to teach you how to make a research. Okay? And we're not choosing the best research here, eh? Right? Are we? We're not. Right? Make it feasible, make it something you can understand. You don't even know the basic of diabetes at this level. You understand? Why all this study about diabetes and you don't even understand what diabetes is at this level in your medical career? Do you understand this, guys? That's why we're very, what's this? Suspicious regarding your topic. It's very high level, not in the level of a second year medical student. Do you understand?
Yes, doc.
You're not taking this seriously, okay?
Doctor,
Yes.
doctor, actually, we are group 8 is already doing uh, mental health status of primary healthcare workers, mental health status and financial status of primary health workers during COVID.
Oh, and why? Oh, it's okay. Just make sure that it's very what's this, visible.
Yes,
Oh,
doctor, it's
in what
feasible.
part
It's
of
totally feasible.
India?
Yeah, we are doing in Delhi
Okay.
and Rajasthan.
Yes. Oh, so make it more specific.
Sure, doctor.
Okay, we're not making a guideline here that you're going to survey all of India. Okay, select a town, for example. Select 3 hospitals. Do you
Okay,
understand?
doctor.
Health workers of uh, these hospitals, for
Yes,
example. Do you understand this?
yes, doctor, totally.
Oh, see? There's so many topics now that you can choose from.
Yun nga, ang dami.
Right?
Napako sila sa prevalence study.
Or what are the points? For example, how many, what's the view of the Indian population regarding the vaccine? Oh, why not that? Regarding what are the views of the health workers to the vaccine? You understand? There's so many things now that you can make a research on. Stop that diabetes. We know that you don't know that. We don't expect you to know that. Okay? We don't expect you to know that at this level.
Air, air pollution, waste management,
There's
water
so many
pollution,
topics,
all India, top one.
right?
Other possible topics as well.
Hmm.
Wag lang smoking, no, and coffee.
Yes.
All right. I hope we see better output next week. Go back to the drawing board and improve what you have. Okay. You could message any one of us if you need help. All right. So let us call it a day. And thank you for the first 7 groups who reported. Okay. For the next groups, please, you have listened to the comments as well. Please incorporate the suggestion to your own report. So one way, for example, your title. Type your title in your internet search box. If it goes up, most likely you will get banged. Okay? That is not acceptable if another study comes up. That's why you actually do your related literature. And that's the importance of your RRL to make sure that your study has not been done by someone else. Because if you're going to, to a study and it's just a duplicate of someone else, it has already been done before, why do the study in the first place? So you have to look at it at a different angle. Not all studies are entirely new, but there's always a different angle to it. Okay? So see you next week. You may leave this call. Thank you, Janice. Thank you, Doc Nilo. All right. Ano ba?
Thank you, Doc.